The cold was the first thing Minho felt. It burned through his veins like ice water, pulling him from the deepest sleep he had ever known. His eyes opened slowly, fighting against eyelids that felt frozen shut. Above him, red emergency lights blinked in a rhythm that made his head hurt. Something was wrong. Minho tried to move, but his muscles refused to obey. The cryopod around him hissed and clicked as warm air flooded the chamber. His fingers twitched first, then his toes. Feeling returned to his body in painful waves. He had trained for this moment, prepared for the awakening after hundreds of years in frozen sleep. But the training never mentioned how much it would hurt. Captain Minho, a calm voice spoke through the speakers above his head. Please remain still. Your body needs 3 more minutes to reach optimal temperature. Area, the ship's artificial intelligence. Minho recognized the voice immediately, even though his thoughts moved like thick mud through his brain. Why? Awake? He managed to whisper through dry lips. Emergency protocol activated, Arya responded. We have entered a combat zone. Multiple vessels detected. Weapons fire confirmed. Your presence is required on the bridge. Combat zone? That was impossible. Space was empty. Their colony ship, the Eternal Horizon, was supposed to be traveling through peaceful darkness toward a new world. They should still be decades away from their destination. No one should be out here. The cryopod opened fully and Minho pulled himself up on shaking arms. His captain's uniform hung on a rack beside the pod, exactly where he had placed it 847 years ago. Had it really been that long? The thought made him dizzy. Around him, other pods were opening. 5 of them, each containing members of his senior crew. Jiwon emerged first, her tactical officer training making her movements quick despite the cryo-sickness. She met Minho's eyes and he saw the same confusion there. Status? Jiwon asked Arya, her voice stronger than Minho's. Showing visual now, the AI replied. The wall in front of them flickered to life, displaying the view outside their ship. Minho's breath caught in his throat. Space was on fire. Massive ships, each one larger than a city, exchanged beams of brilliant energy. Explosions bloomed in the darkness like deadly flowers. Debris spun through the void, glowing red-hot from impacts. What is that? Dr. Heejin spoke from her pod, her scientist mind already analyzing what they saw. Are those ships? Affirmative, Arya confirmed. I have detected 47 distinct vessels engaged in combat. None match any design in my Earth database. They are alien in origin. The word hung in the air. Alien. Humanity had always wondered if they were alone in the universe. Now they had their answer, and it was terrifying. Lieutenant Dae-hyun pulled himself from his pod, his weapons expert eyes scanning the battle. How close are we? We are 300,000 kilometers from the nearest vessel, Arya said. We have not been targeted yet. However, 3 ships have altered course toward our position. I calculate a 76% chance they have detected us. Get us out of here, Minho ordered, finally finding his command voice. Full reverse. Take us back the way we came. Unable to comply, Captain. Our fuel reserves are calculated for a one-way journey. We cannot return to Earth. Additionally, the battle extends in all directions. There is no clear path to avoid detection. Engineer Soman was the last to fully emerge from her pod. She stumbled to a console and began pulling up navigation data. Arya's right. We're surrounded. This isn't just a battle. It's a war zone that stretches across multiple star systems. Minho forced himself to stand, fighting the weakness in his legs. He walked to the display, studying the alien ships. They moved with purpose, their weapons firing in coordinated patterns. This wasn't some random encounter. These beings had been fighting for a long time. How long, Arya? He asked. How long has this war been going on? Unknown, Captain. However, I have been monitoring radio signals for the past 6 months as we approach this sector. The combat chatter suggests this conflict has lasted for multiple generations of their species. Can you understand what they're saying? Dr. Heejin asked, moving closer to the display despite her unsteady legs. I am attempting translation now. The languages are complex, but I am detecting patterns. Give me time. Time was something they might not have. As Minho watched, one of the massive alien ships broke apart under concentrated fire. The vessel split in half, each section tumbling away in different directions. Smaller ships that looked like fighters swarmed from the wreckage. Most were destroyed before they could escape. How many people just died? Jiwon whispered. Sensors indicate that vessel carried approximately 15,000 life signs before destruction. Arya answered with mechanical precision. 15,000 lives gone in seconds. Minho felt sick, and not just from the cryo-sleep. Captain, we're being hailed, Arya announced suddenly. One of the approaching vessels is transmitting on multiple frequencies. They want us to respond. The crew looked at each other. This was first contact, humanity's first conversation with alien life. And it was happening in the middle of a war zone. Can you translate? Minho asked, partially. The message appears to be a demand. They want us to identify ourselves and state our allegiance. Allegiance? We don't have one. We don't even know who they are. Recommend immediate response, Arya urged. Their weapons are powering up. Minho's mind raced. Every decision he made now could determine humanity's future among the stars. Respond wrong, and they might be destroyed. Respond right, and they might be dragged into someone else's war. Tell them we are travelers from a distant world, Minho said slowly, choosing each word carefully. Tell them we are not part of this conflict. We seek only to pass through peacefully. Arya transmitted the message. The crew waited, barely breathing, as seconds stretched into minutes. The alien ship's weapons powered down slightly. A new message came through, and Arya's translation algorithms worked frantically to decode it. Translation complete, the AI announced. They say peace is not an option in this sector. You will declare for the Velkar Dominion, or you will be destroyed as enemies of order. And if we refuse both? Jiwan asked. They do not appear to recognize that as a possibility. Another explosion lit up the view screen. A second alien fleet had arrived, their ships painted in different colors, their designs somehow more organic looking. They immediately engaged the first fleet, and the battle intensified. We need more information, Dr. Hayajin said. Arya, can you access their communication networks? Learn who these factions are? What they're fighting for? Already in progress, Doctor. I have intercepted data streams from both sides. Initial analysis suggests this is a war between two major galactic powers, the Velkar Dominion and the Tharn Collective. The conflict has lasted approximately 200 Earth years. 200 years of war, Minho tried to imagine it. Human wars were terrible, but they ended. This was something else entirely. Captain, the alien vessel is demanding a response, Arya warned. They have given us 1 Earth hour to decide. Minho looked at his crew. They were barely awake, still weak from centuries of frozen sleep. They had no weapons that could threaten these massive warships. Their colony ship was designed for peaceful exploration, not combat. But they were alive and they were human. That had to count for something. Wake the military historians, Minho ordered, and the strategic planning team. 500 people total. Captain? Jiwan questioned. If we're going to survive this, we need to understand what we're dealing with. And I have a feeling that humanity knows something about war that these aliens might have forgotten. He stared at the battle raging outside their ship and made a decision that would change the galaxy forever. We're not picking a side, he said quietly. We're going to end this war, one way or another. Engineer Summon's hands moved across the control panel with growing concern. The ship's long-range sensors were showing something that didn't make sense. She called over her shoulder without taking her eyes off the screen. Captain, you need to see this. Minho walked to her station, still feeling the lingering weakness from cryo-sleep. The rest of the crew gathered around as Soman highlighted sections of data flowing across multiple displays. I was scanning the alien communication networks like Dr. Heejin suggested, Soman explained. But I found something strange. They keep mentioning Earth, our Earth, by name. That's impossible, Jiwan said flatly. We've never made contact with aliens before. How could they know about us? Dr. Heejin leaned closer to the screen, her eyes narrowing as she read the translated text. Arya, show us all references to Earth in the alien databases. Everything you can find. The main display filled with files. Hundreds of them. Survey reports, scientific studies, military assessments, all about Earth. All dated from the past 1,000 years. They've been watching us, Lieutenant Daehyun said quietly. For a long time. Minho felt a chill that had nothing to do with cryo-sleep. Arya, translate the most recent file. I want to know what they know about us. The AI processed for a moment, then began reading aloud. The words came in a flat, emotionless tone that somehow made them more terrifying. Species Assessment Report. Sol 3 Indigenous Life. Classification. Death World. Category 12. Recommendation. Maintain quarantine protocols. Do not attempt contact. Do not provide technology. If species achieves faster than light travel independently, reassess threat level immediately. Death world? Soman repeated. What does that mean? Dr. Heejin was already pulling up more files, her face growing pale as she read. It's a classification system. They rank planets by how dangerous the native life is. Category 1 is peaceful garden worlds. Category 12 is… She stopped, searching for words. It's the highest danger rating they have. Why would they rate Earth as dangerous? Jiwon asked. We're not that bad. According to this, Dr. Heejin continued, her voice shaking slightly. Earth has experienced 5 mass extinction events. 99% of all species that ever lived on our planet are dead. The aliens see that as evidence of an extremely hostile environment. She pulled up another file. They studied our evolution. They noted that humans descended from persistence hunters, predators that chased prey until the prey died from exhaustion. They found that disturbing. Daehyun laughed, but there was no humor in it. They're afraid because our ancestors could run for a long time? It's more than that, Dr. Heejin said, continuing to read. They documented that we domesticated wolves, took wild predators and made them our companions, turned them into weapons for hunting and war. The report says no other known species has ever done that. Minho scrolled through more files. Each one painted a picture of humanity that he had never considered before. To the aliens, humans weren't explorers or dreamers. They were monsters. Listen to this, he said, reading from a Velkar military report. Subject species survived an ice age by killing megafauna and wearing their skins. Subject species regularly consumes toxic substances for pleasure, including ethanol and capsaicin. Subject species entertainment includes simulated violence and combat. Conclusion. Species is highly adapted for warfare and hostile environment survival. They're not wrong, Jiwon said quietly. Everything they're saying is true. We just never thought about it that way. Soman found another file, this one more recent. There's a military doctrine here, something called the Sleeper Species Protocol. It's about us. She put it on the main display. The crew read in silence. The document explained that any species evolving on a Category 12 death world would inevitably become a galactic threat if given advanced technology. The recommendation was clear. Such species should be eliminated before they achieve space travel. However, both the Velkar and the Tharn had been too busy fighting each other to enforce the protocol. They had assumed humans would destroy themselves before becoming a problem. They were going to kill us, Daehyun said, just for existing. They were afraid to, Dr. Hyejin corrected. Look at this section. Multiple survey teams reported back with recommendations against direct contact. They were scared of what might happen if they attacked Earth. Minho found the referenced reports. Survey teams had observed human history from orbit. They had watched the world wars, seen the nuclear weapons, studied human military tactics. Every observer had reached the same conclusion. Leave the humans alone. One report stood out. A Velkar scout commander had written, "This species has weaponized everything they discovered. Fire, metal atoms, disease, information. They fight themselves with the same intensity they fight their environment. They have killed billions of their own kind and continue to thrive. Recommendation: avoid contact. They are dangerous not because they are strong, but because they do not know how to stop fighting." The crew fell silent. Outside, the battle continued. Massive alien warships exchanged fire according to precise patterns. There was an almost elegant quality to their combat, like a deadly dance with rules both sides understood. Lieutenant Daehyun had been studying the battle for the past hour. He suddenly straightened, his expression changing. "Captain, I need to show you something." He brought up tactical displays of the alien combat. "I've been analyzing their weapons and tactics. Watch this engagement." On screen, a Velkar ship and a Tharn ship faced each other. They maneuvered for position, then exchanged fire. The Velkar ship targeted the Tharn's weapon systems. The Tharn returned fire, aiming for the Velkar's engines. "Notice what they're not doing," Daehyun said. "The Tharn ship has escape pods launching. The Velkar could easily destroy them, but they don't. And here the Velkar ship has a damaged section with life support failing. The Tharn could breach it with a single shot. They don't. They're following rules," Jiwon realized. "Even in war they have rules." "Exactly," Daehyun said. "I've watched 30 engagements now. Both sides warn each other before firing on civilian vessels. They avoid certain weapons. They don't target medical ships. They even pause battles to recover survivors sometimes." "That's good, isn't it?" Soman asked. It means they're civilized. It means they're losing, Daehyun corrected. Both of them. This war has lasted 200 years because neither side can win. They're too busy being honorable. Minho understood what his weapons officer was saying. He pulled up Earth's military history files from the ship's database. Images of ancient battles, medieval warfare, modern combat, humanity's long bloody history of killing each other. Area, compare human warfare tactics to what we're seeing in this battle. The AI processed for several seconds. Comparison complete. Human warfare employs 247 tactical approaches not observed in current alien combat. These include surprise attacks without warning, targeting supply lines, psychological warfare, deception tactics, scorched earth policies, total war doctrine, and 241 others. Show me their textbooks on warfare, Dr. Heejin requested. I want to see how they teach military strategy. Arya displayed Velkar and Tharn military manuals. Dr. Heejin read through them quickly, her expression growing more troubled with each page. This is like reading about a sport, she said. They have rules for engagement. Codes of honor. Lists of forbidden weapons and tactics. It's warfare, but it's gentle, compared to human history. They evolved on peaceful worlds, Minho said, understanding finally clicking into place. They never had to fight to survive. War is something they learned, not something they lived. And we lived it, Juwon finished, for our entire existence as a species. The hour the Velkar had given them was almost up. Minho looked at his crew, seeing the same realization on all their faces. Humanity had been classified as a threat not because they were advanced or powerful, but because they understood violence in a way these aliens never could. We have a choice, Minho said slowly. We can try to run, try to hide what we are, or we can use what we are to survive. You want to teach them human warfare, Jiwon said. It wasn't a question. I want to offer them a way to end this war, Minho corrected. Both sides. They've been fighting for 200 years because they don't know how to stop. They don't know how to win decisively. But we do. That's dangerous, Dr. Heijin warned. If we teach them our way of war, there's no taking it back. We could make things worse. They're already dying by the billions, Daehyun pointed out. This war will continue for another 200 years if nothing changes. We can change it, Summon shook her head. But at what cost? We'll become what they fear we are. We'll prove that the Death World classification was right. Minho looked out at the battle. Another ship broke apart, spilling thousands of lives into space. He made his decision. Arya, open a channel to both fleets. I want to speak to their commanders. Captain, Jiwon started. We're going to offer them something they've never had, Minho interrupted. A way to end this war. And in exchange, we get safe passage, territory rights, and a guarantee that humanity will never be threatened again. And if they refuse? Soman asked. Minho smiled, though there was no warmth in it. Then we show them exactly why Earth was classified as a death world. The awakening chamber filled with sound as 500 cryopods opened simultaneously. Captain Minho watched from the observation deck as his carefully selected team emerged from their long sleep. These weren't scientists or engineers. They were soldiers, historians, and strategists. People who understood war. Colonel Jamin was among the first to fully recover. The veteran officer had spent 30 years in military service before joining the colony mission. He moved through the crowd of confused, shivering people with practiced efficiency, organizing them into groups. Everyone stay calm, Jamin called out. I know you're confused. You're supposed to be asleep for another 50 years, but we have a situation that requires your expertise. Major Yoonji emerged next, followed by Professor Junho. The military historian looked around with sharp eyes, already assessing the situation. Commander Sungho, an expert in guerrilla tactics, was right behind them. Within an hour, all 500 were gathered in the ship's main conference room. Minho stood at the front with Arya projecting the ongoing battle on screens around the room. What you're seeing is a war that has lasted 2 centuries, Minho began. Between 2 alien civilizations we knew nothing about until yesterday. They're fighting over resources and territory. Trillions have died, and it's not ending. He let that sink in before continuing. The aliens know about Earth. They've been watching us for 1,000 years. They classified our planet as a death world and humanity as a threat species. They recommended our extinction. Murmurs spread through the crowd. Jamin raised his hand. Why didn't they attack? Because they were afraid, Jiwon answered, stepping forward. They've seen what humans do to each other. They decided it was safer to leave us alone. Dr. Heejin brought up the alien files. They've documented our history, our weapons, our tactics, and they've concluded that human warfare is fundamentally different from theirs. Different how? Major Yunji asked. They fight with honor, Lieutenant Daehyun explained. They follow rules. They avoid civilian casualties. They warn before attacking. They pause to collect their dead. It's warfare, but it's civilized warfare. And we don't fight that way, Professor Junho said slowly, understanding dawning on his face. No, Minho confirmed. We don't, we never have. He gestured to Arya, who began displaying human military history. Ancient battles, medieval sieges, modern warfare. The images were brutal and honest. Professor Junho stood, addressing the crowd. Throughout human history, we've employed tactics that these aliens have never considered. We've used deception, ambush, terror, and total war. We've targeted supply lines, destroyed food stores, and broken the enemy's will to fight. We've won wars not by being stronger, but by being willing to do what others wouldn't. You're talking about war crimes, someone said from the back. I'm talking about survival, Junho corrected. Context matters. What's a war crime in peace becomes necessary in extinction. Humanity has always lived on the edge of extinction. These aliens never have. Commander Sung-ho approached the display showing the alien battle. Look at their formation. Perfect lines. Organized chaos. They're treating war like a chess game with rules everyone follows. We need to show them there are no rules, Jaemin said. Not if you want to win. But do we want them to win? Dr. Heejin challenged. Both sides have committed to this war. If we teach them human tactics, millions more might die. Millions are already dying, Minho said firmly. This war will continue for generations if nothing changes. We can end it, quickly, decisively, and in doing so save countless lives. And how? Major Yunji asked. By offering our knowledge to the highest bidder, Minho said. We'll contact both sides. Tell them we can teach them how to win. In exchange, we get territory rights, technology, and a promise of peace. And then what? Soman asked from the doorway. We just hand over human military strategy and hope they use it responsibly. We do more than that, Minho said. We show them that war is so terrible, so complete, that peace becomes the only logical choice. We teach them mutually assured destruction. We make war so frightening that neither side wants to continue. Colonel Jaemin nodded slowly. The nuclear deterrent. It kept Earth from destroying itself during the Cold War. Exactly, Minho confirmed. But first we need to prove we're worth listening to. We need a demonstration. You want to attack them, Commander Sung-ho said. It wasn't a question. I want to show them what human tactics look like, Minho corrected. One engagement. Small scale. Something that proves our point without causing massive casualties. Lieutenant Daehyun brought up a tactical map. I've been studying their patrol patterns. There's a Velkar supply convoy 3 hours from here. Light escort. Standard protection. Supply lines, Professor Junho said with a slight smile. One of humanity's favorite targets. Cut off supplies and the army starves. The aliens don't think that way, Daehyun continued. They escort supply ships, but they don't heavily protect them. In their warfare, attacking supplies is considered dishonorable. It's not a valid military target. But in human warfare, Jaemin said, logistics is everything. No food, no fuel, no ammunition means no army. It's basic strategy. Minho looked around the room. We hit the supply convoy fast, no warning. We don't target the warships. We target the freighters. We destroy supplies, not soldiers. We show them that war isn't about honor. It's about winning. They'll call us barbarians, Dr. Heejin warned. They already do, Ji-won said. We might as well earn the title. The vote was called. Of the 500 people in the room, 487 voted in favor. 13 abstained. None voted against. 3 hours later, the eternal horizon moved silently through space. They had positioned themselves along the supply convoy's route, using the ship's minimal stealth capabilities to avoid detection. Target acquired, Daehyun reported from the weapons station. 3 freighters, 2 escort vessels. They're following standard patrol patterns. Wait for my command, Minho ordered. On the view screen, the convoy approached. The alien freighters were massive, carrying enough supplies to support a battle fleet for months. The escort ships moved in predictable patterns, sweeping for threats. They're scanning, Samin warned, but they're looking for warships. Our colony ship doesn't register as a threat. Human advantage number 1, Commander Sung-ho said. Never look like the threat you are. The convoy passed within weapons range. The escort ships continued their standard patterns, completely unaware of the danger. "Fire," Minho commanded. The Eternal Horizons missiles launched. They were old technology compared to alien weapons, but they were fast and they were aimed precisely. Not at the escort ships. At the freighters, the first missile struck a fuel tanker. The explosion was massive, a chain reaction that consumed the entire vessel in seconds. The second missile hit an ammunition transport. That explosion was even larger, sending debris spinning in all directions. The escort ships reacted exactly as Daehyun had predicted. They moved to intercept the remaining missiles, following their combat protocols. In doing so, they left the third freighter exposed for 3 critical seconds. The final missile hit the supply freighter's main cargo hold. Food, equipment, and materials designed to support thousands of soldiers burned in the vacuum of space. Total engagement time, 47 seconds. The escort ships spun around, searching for the attacker. But the Eternal Horizon was already moving away, its engines pushing it out of weapons range. A transmission came through immediately. Arya translated the Velkar commander's words. "Unknown vessel, you have attacked defenseless transports. You provided no warning. You violated the codes of combat. This is barbarism. This is murder." Minho took a deep breath and opened a channel. "This is Captain Minho of the human vessel Eternal Horizon. What you call barbarism, we call warfare. What you call murder, we call tactics. You've been fighting your war for 200 years because you don't understand what war actually means. We understand perfectly. You understand nothing," Minho interrupted. "You think war is about honor and fair fights. It's not. War is about destroying your enemy's ability to fight. We just took out supplies that would have sustained your battle fleet for 3 months. We did it in less than a minute. No warning, no honor, just results. Silence from the other end. If you want to win your war," Minho continued, "contact us. If you want to end your war, contact us. But if you want to continue dying by the billions while following your precious codes of honor, then ignore us. The choice is yours." He cut the transmission. The crew waited in tense silence. After 10 minutes, Arya spoke. "Captain, we're receiving messages from both the Velkar Dominion and the Tharn Collective. They want to negotiate." Colonel Jamin let out a breath. "They're scared, good. Fear is the beginning of wisdom." "No," Dr. Heejin said quietly. "Fear is the beginning of escalation. We just showed them a new way to fight. They're going to use it. Let them," Minho said. "Let them see how terrible human warfare can be. And then we show them how to make it stop." On the view screen, the burning remains of the supply convoy drifted past. It was a small violence in a war filled with massive ones. But it was different. It was human, and the galaxy would never forget it. The conference room had been converted for first contact. Captain Minho sat at one end of a long table, with Commander Jiwon and Dr. Heejin flanking him. Across from them, displayed on a holographic screen, was Grand Admiral Velith of the Velkar Dominion. The alien was nothing like Minho had imagined. Velith had 4 arms, each ending in delicate fingers. His skin shimmered with iridescent scales that changed color when he spoke. His eyes were large and golden, with a depth of intelligence that was immediately obvious. "You destroyed 3 supply vessels," Velith said without greeting. His voice was musical, translated by Arya into words that carried both beauty and anger. "You killed 247 crew members who were simply doing their duty. You gave no warning, no chance to surrender. This is not warfare. This is butchery." Minho met the alien's gaze without flinching. "How many have died in your war?" "Not 247, billions. And how many more will die if it continues for another 200 years? That is different. We fight with honor. You fight with stupidity," Minho interrupted. "Honor doesn't win wars. Strategy does. Force does. The willingness to do what must be done does. You've been fighting for 2 centuries because neither side wants to be dishonorable. Meanwhile, your people die." Velith's scales rippled through shades of red and purple, colors that Arya identified as indicating distress and anger. "And you think you can teach us to win? With your barbaric tactics?" "I know we can," Minho said. "But that's not what we're offering." This seemed to surprise the Grand Admiral. "Explain." Dr. Heejin leaned forward. "Your war continues because neither side can gain a decisive advantage while following your codes of combat. You're evenly matched in honor and technology, but if one side adopts human tactics, that balance breaks. The war ends quickly. With massive casualties, Velith said. Fewer than will die if the war continues, Jiwan countered. We ran the numbers. At your current rate of losses, both civilizations will be extinct in 3 more centuries. You're killing yourselves slowly. We can make it fast. Or, Minho added, we can help you end it peacefully. Velith leaned back, his forearms folding in a gesture that seemed contemplative. You're suggesting a third option. Not victory, but peace. We're suggesting you learn from our mistakes, Minho said. Humanity nearly destroyed itself multiple times. We came close to extinction. We learned that the only way to survive was to make war so terrible that peace became preferable. You're speaking of deterrence, Velith said. I'm speaking of making both sides understand what total war means, Minho corrected. Right now you're playing at war. You follow rules. You maintain your honor. It's almost civilized. We can show you what uncivilized war looks like, and when both sides understand that horror, peace negotiations become very attractive. Before Velith could respond, Arya announced another incoming transmission. Captain, the Tharn Collective is requesting an immediate conference. Put them through, Minho ordered. It's time they heard this too. A second holographic display activated. The Tharn representative was called Hive Coordinator 7th Branch. It wasn't a single being, but 6 identical bodies that moved and spoke in perfect synchronization. Their insectoid forms were disturbing to human eyes, all chitinous plates and multifaceted eyes. We have observed your discussion with the Velkar, 7th Branch said in 6-part harmony. We too wish to understand this human concept of warfare. You've been listening in, Velith accused. As you have been monitoring our communications, 7th Branch replied without shame. We are at war. Espionage is expected. Not in peace negotiations, Velith protested. There is no peace, 7th Branch stated. There is only war, unless the humans can truly offer an alternative. Minho looked between the 2 alien commanders. Here's what we're offering. We'll provide strategic consultation to both sides, not to help you destroy each other, but to help you understand what destruction actually means. You'll help both sides? Velith's scales shifted to colors indicating confusion. That makes no sense. It makes perfect sense, Colonel Jamin said, entering the room with Major Yunji. If only one side learns human tactics, they win, and the other is destroyed. If both sides learn, you reach what we call mutually assured destruction. Neither side can win without destroying themselves in the process. That's madness, Velith said. That's deterrence, Yunji corrected. It kept humanity from nuclear war for over a century. When both sides have the power to completely destroy the other, peace becomes the only logical choice. 7th Branch's 6 bodies tilted their heads in unison, an elegant solution. Both sides gain equal power, therefore neither can use it. What are your terms? Velith asked, his scales now showing colors of cautious interest. Minho laid out the human demands. First, immediate ceasefire in this sector. Second, recognition of human sovereignty over 20 star systems, including our colony world. Third, full technology exchange. Your FTL drives medical technology and manufacturing capabilities. Fourth, a non-aggression pact lasting 1,000 years. And fifth, you help us wake the rest of our colonists and transport them safely to our new world. That's a high price, Velith observed. It's a fair price for ending your war, Minho countered. How do we know your strategies will work? 7th Branch asked. Lieutenant Daehyun stood and brought up tactical displays. Because we've already proven it. That supply convoy? Standard human tactic. We identified a weakness in your supply chain and exploited it. No honor, no warning. Just efficiency. He pulled up more data. We've been studying your battles. Both sides have vulnerabilities you're not exploiting because of your codes of combat. The Velkar don't target civilian manufacturing centers even though they produce war materials. The Tharn don't poison enemy food supplies even though it would be easy. You both avoid biological weapons, information warfare, and psychological tactics. Because those things are monstrous, Velith said. They're effective, Daehyun replied. And if we teach them to both sides, they cancel out. You both become too dangerous to attack, so you negotiate instead. Dr. Hijin added. We're also offering something else. Human mediators. We have no stake in your war. We can negotiate terms that neither side can achieve alone. You want to dictate our peace? 7th Branch asked, the 6 voices carrying an edge. We want to facilitate it, Hijin corrected. You've been fighting so long you've forgotten how to talk to each other. You need outside perspective. Valeth was quiet for a long moment, his scales shifting through complex patterns. I need to consult with my high command. This decision is beyond my authority. As must we consult the collective. Seventh branch agreed. You have 12 hours, Minho said. After that, we start searching for other options. There are other factions in this galaxy, smaller ones. If the two major powers won't work with us, perhaps someone else will. It was a bluff, but it worked. Both commanders stiffened. That would be unwise, Veleth warned. That would be destabilizing, Seventh Branch added. Then give us an answer quickly, Minho said. We're refugees looking for a home. We'll take whatever deal ensures our survival. We'd prefer to work with you, but we will work with someone. Both transmissions ended. The crew sat in silence for a moment. That was risky, G1 said finally. Everything we're doing is risky, Minho replied. But we're committed now. There's no going back. 10 hours later, both responses came simultaneously. The Velkar and Tharn had reached the same conclusion independently. They would accept the human terms with one modification. They want a demonstration, Arya reported, a joint operation where human tactics prove their worth. Against who? Soman asked. Against a rogue Velkar warlord named Kethis, Arya explained. He's been conducting unauthorized raids, refusing peace talks, and extending the war for personal profit. Both sides want him removed, but his fortress station is considered impregnable. Colonel Jemin smiled. Nothing is impregnable to someone who thinks like we do. Show me the station's specs. Over the next 2 hours, the senior staff planned an operation that would have been impossible by alien standards. It involved deception, infiltration, sabotage, and psychological manipulation. It broke every rule of honorable combat. It was perfectly human. We'll need volunteers from both fleets, Jamin explained. Velkar electronic warfare specialists and Tharn infiltration units. We combine their abilities with our tactical planning. Will they work together? Dr. Hyojin asked. They will if they want to win, Jemin said. That's the first lesson we're teaching them. Sometimes you have to ally with your enemy to face a greater threat. Major Yunji looked at the plan with professional appreciation. It's brutal, efficient, and if it works, it'll prove that human tactics can end engagements in minutes instead of months. If it works, Soman emphasized. It'll work, Minho said with more confidence than he felt. Because if it doesn't, we just proved we're not worth the risk. And then we'll have no bargaining power at all. The operation was scheduled for 8 hours later. In that time, human advisors would brief alien soldiers on tactics they had never considered. They would teach beings who valued honor how to fight without it, and the galaxy would learn why Earth was called a death world. The operation against Warlord Kethis took exactly 18 minutes. Captain Minho watched from the eternal horizon as the combined human-alien force executed the plan perfectly. A fake distress signal drew out Kethis's patrol ships. Velkar electronic warfare systems masked the approach of Tharn infiltration teams. Those teams, following human instructions, didn't engage in combat. Instead, they sabotaged specific systems that human analysts had identified as critical vulnerabilities. When Kethis's fortress station tried to respond, its shields flickered at precisely the wrong moment. A single Velkar missile, guided by human targeting algorithms, struck the compromised reactor. The explosion was contained, controlled, and absolutely devastating to the station's structural integrity. Kethis and his command staff were captured alive. His forces surrendered within minutes of losing their central command. Not a single civilian casualty. Minimal military losses on the Allied side. It was, by human standards, a textbook special operations mission. By alien standards, it was revolutionary. They're calling it the new warfare, Dr. Hyojin reported 3 days later, reading through translated alien news feeds. Analysis programs across the galaxy are trying to understand what happened. How an impregnable fortress fell so quickly. And what are they concluding? Minho asked. That the humans have changed everything. Hyojin looked up from her display, her expression troubled. There are already reports of other factions studying Earth military history, downloading everything they can find about human warfare tactics. Commander Jiwan entered the conference room with Colonel Jamin and Professor Junho. We've received invitations to a peace summit. Both the Velkar and Tharn leadership want to negotiate a formal end to the war. Invitations or demands? Minho asked. Invitations, Jamin confirmed. They're treating us as equals now. Possibly as superiors. The demonstration worked too well. There's a problem, though, Junho added. 17 smaller factions have refused to attend the peace talks. They're calling the Velkar and Tharn cowards for negotiating, and they're studying our tactics to continue fighting. Minho had expected this, so we've traded one long war for potentially multiple shorter, more brutal ones. Not if we move quickly, Jiwon said. I've been working with Major Yunji on a proposal. We call it the Mutually Assured Peace Protocol. She brought up a detailed presentation. The protocol had 5 main components. First, all signatories would share military capabilities openly, removing the fear of surprise attacks. Second, joint rapid response forces would be created, with ships from multiple species working together. Third, economic agreements would make war financially catastrophic for everyone involved. Fourth, cultural exchange programs would help different species understand each other. And fifth, the human guarantee. The human guarantee? Minho asked. If anyone breaks the peace, Yunji explained, humanity provides full military consultation to the defending coalition. For free. We become the ultimate deterrent. Attack anyone, and you face human tactics. We're making ourselves into the galaxy's police force, Dr. Heejin said. We're making war so terrible that peace is the only option, Jiwon corrected. Same principle that kept Earth from nuclear war. Mutual deterrence. 3 weeks later, the Peace Summit convened on a neutral world called Sanctuary Prime. 47 different species sent delegations. The Eternal Horizon crew attended as guests of honor, though Minho noticed the way other species looked at them. With respect, yes, but also with fear. Grand Admiral Velith gave a speech about the new era of peace. Hive Coordinator's 7th branch spoke about the efficiency of cooperation over conflict. Other leaders added their voices, talking about hope and unity. But when Captain Minho stood to speak, the vast hall fell completely silent. 200 years, Minho began. That's how long this war lasted. Trillions died, entire planets were destroyed. And it continued because neither side knew how to end it. They only knew how to fight honorably. He paused, looking around at the assembled aliens. Humanity comes from a different place. We evolved on a world that tried to kill us every day. We learned to fight without honor because honor was a luxury we couldn't afford. We killed to survive. We conquered to live. And eventually we became so good at war that we almost destroyed ourselves. The hall remained silent. We stopped, Minho continued, not because we became peaceful, but because we finally understood what our weapons could do. We developed bombs that could end all life on our planet. And faced with that possibility, we chose peace. Not because we were noble, but because we were terrified. He gestured to the holographic display showing the treaty documents. This peace you're signing today isn't about nobility. It's about fear. We've shown you what human warfare looks like. Now both sides are afraid of each other, afraid of what might happen if fighting continues. And that fear is the foundation of this peace. Velith's scale shifted to uncertain colors. You paint a dark picture, Captain. I paint an honest one, Minho replied. Peace built on mutual respect is beautiful but fragile. Peace built on mutual fear is ugly but stable. You've tried the first way for 2 centuries. It didn't work. Now try our way. The treaty was signed that day. The war officially ended. Ships that had been trying to destroy each other for generations began working together instead. Velkar engineers and Tharn manufacturers started joint projects. Trade routes opened. Prisoners were exchanged. And in orbit above Sanctuary Prime, the first Joint Defense Force began training. Alien soldiers learning human tactics, not to conquer but to deter. 4 months after awakening from Cryo-Sleep, the Eternal Horizon finally reached Kepler 442b. The planet was beautiful, with blue oceans and green continents. Exactly what the colony ship's designers had hoped for. Engineer Soman stood on the bridge as they entered orbit. Home, she said softly. Finally home. The remaining colonists began their awakening. 49,000 people who had fallen asleep expecting to be pioneers on an empty world. Instead, they woke to find themselves citizens of the most feared species in the galaxy. Captain Minho recorded a message for them, explaining everything that had happened. The war, the demonstration, the peace. He ended with a warning. We left Earth to escape our violent history, but that history followed us. It saved us. And now it defines us in the eyes of every species we'll ever meet. We are the humans from the death world. We are the ones who ended a 200-year war in weeks. That reputation will protect us, but it will also isolate us. We must choose carefully who we become. Lieutenant Daehyun and engineer Samin's daughter Jisoo was born in the colony's new medical center. She was the first human born off Earth in another star system, the first of a new generation. Dr. Hyejin held the baby carefully, thinking about the future. What kind of galaxy will she grow up in? A peaceful one, hopefully, Somin said. A careful one, certainly, Daehyun added. Everyone will be watching her. Watching all of us. 6 months after the peace treaty, a transmission arrived from Earth. Captain Minho read it alone in his office, his hands shaking. Earth had survived. Barely. The planet was recovering from environmental collapse and resource wars. But humanity had endured, and they had been watching the galaxy for centuries, knowing aliens existed, preparing for this moment. The message was clear. Earth was building ships, fast ships with weapons based on centuries of military development. An expeditionary fleet was coming. Not colonists, soldiers. Minho called an emergency meeting of his senior staff. Earth is coming, and they're not coming peacefully. Can we stop them? Jiwon asked. Should we? Jimin countered. They're human. They're our people. They're coming to a galaxy that just learned to fear us, Dr. Hyejin said. If Earth arrives with warships, it could restart everything we ended. Or it could cement the peace, Professor Junho argued. Nothing maintains deterrence like actual military force. Right now we're trading on reputation alone. Earth's fleet would make that reputation real. The debate continued for hours. Finally, Minho made his decision. We send a message back. We tell Earth everything that happened. The war, the peace, our role in both. And we tell them that if they come as conquerors, they'll undo everything we've built. But if they come as peacekeepers, they'll strengthen it. And if they ignore us? Somin asked. Then we deal with it when they arrive, Minho said. We're months away by FTL communication, years away by travel. We have time. In the colony below, construction continued. Human cities rising on an alien world. Children playing in parks while their parents worked alongside Velkar advisors and Tharn engineers. A society being built on the foundation of fear, but growing into something more. Major Yoonji stood on a hillside overlooking the main settlement. Commander Sungho joined her, and they watched the sunset together. Do you think it'll last? Yoonji asked. The peace? As long as they remember what we showed them, Sungho replied. The moment they forget how terrible human warfare can be, someone will test us, and we'll have to remind them. By showing them again, by threatening to. That's the thing about deterrence. It only works if you never have to use it. In space above the colony, a joint patrol passed by. A Velkar cruiser, a Tharn carrier, and a small human escort ship flying together. Allies formed not from friendship, but from mutual necessity. Captain Minho watched from the colony's command center.